he focuses on John's team. He focuses on John because John's is awesome all the time.
John's crystal clear. He's got sound pads behind him. Everything's good.
Except trim my toenails during Corona.
What's the frequency cannon?
I wanted to talk about the top 5 picks, mainly just number 5 and number 1, but we already touched on Burrow. So I wanted to get into the team that I believe is destined to never, ever win a championship until they have one owner, because the Dolphins are owned by like Will Smith and the Williams sisters and J-Lo. They picked with the number 5 pick, quarterback from Alabama, Tua Tagovailoa. It's close. Kev, do you think he's got potential for the NFL?
To answer that question, yes. I think he's wildly talented. He can throw some incredible balls, but he's also throwing to guys that are usually screaming past defenders. The part that makes me think he's not a legit top 5 pick is that more and more injuries keep coming out about him. He's had that tightrope surgery on both ankles. Have you seen that?
Tightrope surgery? I've never heard of that.
They literally, like, to make a broken ankle heal faster, they drill a hole, put a wire, and then string it to make the bone heal, like fuse. So it takes like half the time.
Okay.
That's why they call it a tightrope, because if the string doesn't like fuse the bone perfectly, it's like walking on a tightrope, right?
Oh, damn.
So he's had that in both ankles. And then if you saw him at the end of the season last year when he got hit in the hip, like they said the blood flow to that ball in your hip joint was completely dead. I'm like, that's kind of a big deal because you're going to get hit a lot in the NFL.
Yeah, like your hips are kind of important in football.
It's almost like the Bo Jackson hip injury.
Yes.
It was exactly like it. Yes.
I mean, Bo Jackson was one of the greatest athletes of all time and couldn't play again.
They said if it wasn't for modern technology, it was the identical injury in his hip. And if it wasn't for modern technology, he would have been done. Mm-hmm. But when you hear that, don't you look at that and say, I'm not building my franchise around this?
No way. I'm not letting 300-pound linebackers smash into him because he's going to break.
Yeah.
That's the only concern.
The Fitzmagic a little bit.
Oh, Fitzmagic. 400 yards first game, 5 touchdowns. 400 yards second game, 5 touchdowns. 8 games in a row with 5 interceptions in every game. That's Fitzpatrick. I love him, but he's very lopsided.
They told him, like, listen, we suck. Just whatever. Just go do it.
Yeah, right. You can't do any worse than Jay Cutler smoking cigarettes in the huddle.
He was the worst.
My friends down here are like, you know how you're always a little overly optimistic for your own team? Like when they signed Cutler after he had been retired for a couple of years, my friends were like, on the Bears, if he had any help, he'd be a Hall of Fame quarterback. I'm like, no, he wouldn't. He had weapons.
He did.
He had Alshon Jeffrey. He had somebody else. But the Bears were not like Jay Cutler and nobody else.
No, he had talent. And he had a couple good running backs, too, while he was there.
He had Matt Forte. Yeah.
There you go. Number 22 from Tulane.
Yeah.
I actually think Tua is going to be a good NFL quarterback. Not on the Dolphins. 0%.
Right. That's what I'm saying. After like a year or two, he'll get traded to some weird team like the Cardinals or like the Saints, and he'll succeed.
So
Saints could work because Breeze is on the twilight.
Yeah.
Not that I would put him on, but I'm thinking about like a team like a system like the Chiefs. Like Mahomes doesn't run as much as it may seem. Like he runs when he has to, and he just actually gains 25 yards each time. But he throws relatively behind the line of scrimmage, and that's what you would have to do with someone like Tua, not to get him hit that much, but he's going to get destroyed on the Dolphins.
Yeah. I mean, I hope he's not there more than 2 years, because if he isn't, then he won't have a very long NFL career, because that's what the Dolphins do. They kill souls.
Care?
I mean, my little group of friends do, but no, No. Like the level that people care about the Eagles and Philly and the surrounding areas, it's like 2% of that down here. They don't care.
So why do you think in areas like Miami and LA and all that, do you think it's because of the weather and the beaches that people care less about pro sports? Or it's just the transplants?
And
like Matt was saying earlier, like people aren't natively.
It also has to do with the Dolphins have not done well in like 50 years. They never won the big game with Marino. And now it's like, we don't even have a guy who's really good who can get us to the Super Bowl anymore. And they haven't in forever. So yeah. I think that has a lot to do with it.
But they get Heat, like the Heat got, I mean, even not just during the LeBron days, like the Heat get a ton of fans, I feel like, at games and support. Like, yeah. Like, do they now?
So I was down there for a game twice, post LeBron, and the place was packed, and the Sixers sucked at the time when I was there. And the place was packed. Everybody was in Heat gear. They're still riding the Wade.
Right. I was just going to say, like, they have a tradition now. They have back-to-back champions, three titles overall. They have some stuff to wear around, and brag about.
So my theory always was that there's just so many other things to do in those cities. Like, if you're in LA, would you rather go see the Chargers or go, I don't know, wherever they do, Hollywood Bowl, like all the great stuff in LA, clubs and everything else. Like, there's just so much other stuff to do that's probably better than that football game. That's probably why they don't get fans. And if you don't go to the games or watch them on TV because you're doing other stuff, you're not going to be loyal.
Yeah. And just the instant information and just the way that, like, our lives are different now, to go sit in a confined space for 2.5 hours and watch one thing where you have no cell phone reception, that's a hard ask for the millennials.
Yeah. When they could go to brunch and watch it on Twitter and just get updates,
or watch it on giant TVs at that brunch.
And not deal with the traffic we were talking about.
I feel it would be not right to leave the conversation about football and not recognize Kev's picture he sent us of, I forget the coach who was beaten off. I watched it like 10 times. And it just came to, we didn't talk about it through the draft. It was unbelievable.
I think it was Shanahan. Yeah.
It was Shanahan.
And his kids are like sitting on the window ledge behind him. It was one of those, like, I just started chuckling to myself, and Ash walks into the room and she's like, "What is it?" And I rewind it.
Are you beating off?
Laughing. Yeah, it was just me beating off, and then Shanahan was at the same time, which was weird. But
weird how things happen.
So yeah, I enjoyed it. I probably watched it too much.
The first time I watched it, like, you get the message, and I played it, and I was like, yeah. And I watched it again. I'm like, oh shit. It took me the second time to really notice it.
Like Shay, I did the same thing. I was like, I guess I just don't get this one. And I like moved on. And then, like, you guys kept responding. I was like, wait a minute, what am I not seeing here? And I was like, oh, he's crouched over like I usually am at 3:30 every day in my own office.
Oh, shit.
I mean, we're on lockdown,
That's a good segment.
So let's move on, guys, to our next topic. The Last Dance on ESPN, the 10-part documentary series on Michael Jordan. And it's crazy because in the first episode,
Break it down.